welcome to Disruptors and Influencers, which is our headline event as part of International Women's Day. And most of you probably know that International Women's Day is actually tomorrow, so we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. But we're very, very pleased and proud to have some movers and shakers with us today, who'll be joining us very shortly. And I just want to say a big thank you to Barclays, who's supporting this event tonight. And I'd like to welcome you, everyone here today. I think I don't spot a single man. Hands up. Oh, brave, very brave. Welcome. So thank you all very much for coming, and the single man in the audience. And a huge welcome as well to everybody who's joining us online. I think there's about 200 people who are participating in this event virtually. And then we have, who's been here before? Who knows the Business and IP Centre? Well, that's only a quarter of you. So I'm hoping that the rest of you will come back and use us. But just to say, we have a national network of business and IP centres right around the country. So there are 21 city libraries who provide support for people who are starting up, running and growing their businesses right across the country. And we have also 90 what we call BIPC locals delivering support in branch libraries. And tonight we have Leeds Business and IP Centre joining us. So a big shout out for Leeds. Hey, thank you. Brilliant. So they also have an audience there in Leeds, and they will be hanging on every word, and they'll really appreciate your shout out. And I just want to say that you'll be able to ask your questions your questions from Leeds and online over Twitter, but one of my colleagues will tell you more about it. So for those of you who haven't used the Business and IP Centre, whether it's in London or online or on the national network before, every day is International Women's Day at the British Library. Do you know what the percentage, or do you know what percentage of businesses are owned by women? Does anybody know? Do you want to shout it out? Actually, it's a bit higher, 20%. But that's really not good enough, is it? No, exactly. So I'm hoping that tonight, those of you who haven't started a business and those of you who have are inspired to either start or scale your businesses. And for those who haven't been to the Business and IP Centre before, I just want to say that heart of what we do here is we have over £5 million worth of essential market intelligence, so up-to-the-minute market research, company and financial information, trends, and all sorts of templates for how to write a business plan that would cost the man, or should I say the woman on the street, hundreds of pounds. And here, it's free. All you need is a reader pass. And that's the same for all the libraries in our network. And in addition to that, we're also the library of the UK Intellectual Property Office. And all of the libraries in our network are intellectual property experts in patents, trademarks, designs, copyright. And I don't know if you know, but there's an IP in every business, whether it's your name, whether it's an invention, whether it's your logo. So you've got to be sure that you protect it from the start, or at least you're aware of the IP. And in addition to that, so we have people on the desk, information professionals all day, every day, helping you to find the information you need, helping you to learn about intellectual property and how you can protect your idea and your business. And we also run workshops and one-on-ones. And in addition to that, we run workshops, webinars, one-on-ones, mentoring, all day, every day, on all aspects of setting up, running, and scaling a business, including marketing, business planning, finance, social media, you name it. So you're not alone. And we hold many, many networking events like this. And I just wanted to say that across the country, of the 27,000 people that we've supported this year, 65% of them have been women. So that's fantastic. Together we're going to change the world and we're going to level up. And of all the women that have come to use us, 33% come from a Black, Asian, and ethnic minority background. And in London, that's even higher, at 45%. So please, please do come and use us. And the last thought I want to leave you with is if you use our services, you're more than twice as likely to be successful. So the third year of trading is the crucial year in a company's life. And after that, 50 to 60% of businesses fail. But our users, our clients, if you like, we track them every single year to see how they and their businesses are doing. And over 90% are still trading after that crucial third year. And that includes over the pandemic. So please come back and use us. Please increase your chances of success. And that goes for everyone online and also in Leeds. So now I'm going to hand over to Jacqueline Brown, who's behind me. And she is responsible for putting on these programs at the British Library. And she's come up with a fantastic formula called Red Table. Well, I think she nicked it from Jada Pinkett, actually. But anyway, I don't know if she's protected her IP, Jada. But so now I'm going to hand over to Jacqueline, who is going to introduce you to the speakers. Over to Jacqueline.
Thank you, Isabel. Ladies and gents and other in the house, welcome to this evening. I'm going to keep it swift and sweet. But I want to just make a quick point. I heard a comment today within my team, which is why I want to say why it's so important that you're all here tonight. Somebody said that having a business centre in the library is not important, that we shouldn't have that. And I looked at my colleague, helping out tonight, and just thought, wow, that's just really sad. You know, tonight is all about disruptors and influencers. It's all about doing things differently. And so having a business centre within a library is how things should be. I mean, you're all here for a reason, and we're doing this to be able to support all of you, to be able to equip you with the skills and the tools that you need for your businesses to grow that. So I want to show that person that you should have a business centre in the library. You should be doing events like this, and you should be doing things that is bringing together amazing, may I say, Isabel, badass women and people all together. Exactly. Woohoo! Come on now. Bringing us all together, doing great things. And so the speakers that we're having today will also be doing that. So the first person I want to invite up is our moderator for tonight, an amazing woman, fantastic. She's also a comedian. She's an influencer on Instagram. And she's a presenter and writer from Birmingham, one of my favorite cities in the UK. Cassandra Maria, she first made waves on the internet in 2018. She does little viral sketches. They're really fun. You should check her out. She gets over 2 million views across her platforms. And she writes and produces comedy series, presents and produces 11 radio shows a week for Premier Radio. For those who listen to Premier, you will maybe be familiar with her. Premier Gospel. It's the UK's biggest gospel music radio station. And she was a recipient of the Street Cred Next Generation Award in 2019, just before the pandemic. Cassandra, come to the platform and welcome her, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for the lovely introduction. How are we all feeling today? We good? We need more energy than that. How are we all feeling today? All right, so I'm going to introduce the next speaker. This is the founder and CEO of Plants and Perks, the world's first benefits platform that rewards employees with sustainable perks for reducing their environmental impact, which is incredible. After nearly 10 years of running the marketing campaigns for Walkers, Wrigley's, BT, and the O2 at a creative agency, Chloe moved onto the largest parenting platform in the UK, Mumsnet, to head up her own flexible working program. It was during this time there, running a large commercial team and juggling homeschooling with 2 young children. During the pandemic, she set up Plants and Perks. Introducing to the stage, it's Chloe Sweden.
Yes, for my brand, Alawalia.
Come and take a seat, Chloe.
What about the more simple ones?
Awesome. So I have the pleasure of introducing Priya Ahluwalia. She is a creative director of her own brand, Ahluwalia, which is multi-award winning. The label combines elements from her dual heritage of Indian and Nigerian heritage and London roots, and she explores the potential of vintage and surplus clothing by giving existing material new life through textile and patchwork techniques. She's earned global recognition for her contributions to the fashion industry, and her work has been featured in prestigious publications such as Vogue, ID, and the New York Times. So I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Priya Ahluwalia.
Thank you. That was lovely. Hi, everyone. I'm Priya. So I'm going to introduce Shah Wasmond, MBE, who is an entrepreneur and author with over 25 years of experience building and selling businesses. She was raised by a single mother on a council estate and the first in her family to go to university. Shah is passionate about helping people from all backgrounds to fulfill their potential. At 21, she was the youngest female boxing manager in the world, working with Chris Eubank, and at 23, she set up her own PR agency, which managed the launch of the Dyson vacuum cleaner. In 2015, Shah was awarded an MBE for services to business and entrepreneurship and was named as one of the UK's top 20 most influential entrepreneurs by the Sunday Times. So, welcome, Shah. Maybe I just put this in.
So all our ladies are on the stage. Can we get a massive round of applause for everyone that's joined us? Such incredible women. I feel very out of my depth, but it's all right. So what we're going to do now is I have some cards here, and I'm going to place them face down on the table, and we're going to pick a card and then discuss the topic on the card. Now, we don't know what are on the cards. It could be anything. It could be something about our shoe size. It could be something about our shoe cupboard, or, family-related, business-related, anything at all. So while you get your waters, I'm going to put these I want to put them in the middle, but there is no middle. So I'm going to place them here. Or should I just split them? Let's split them. I'll put some there, and thank you very much. That was smart. Yeah, thank you. I should have done that. Right. So,
All right, Priya.
pick a card, any card,
feel
and
like
then
that
we're all
was-
going to discuss
Okay.
the topic on the card with the person that picks the card giving their answer and being the lead. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes?
Oh, gosh.
Pick a card, any card.
The topic is embracing a message to mini-me. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your 13-year-old self to equip her for entering the world of business?
Oh,
That's a good question.
that's a very good question.
I think that I would definitely advise myself to trust myself and trust my gut, and also be kind to myself. I think when I was 13, I was working very hard, trying to get where I am now, and I think I was so self-critical. I am still very self-critical, actually, so I haven't learned that much, but I think I would say be patient with myself, to keep asking questions. I'd say that that's one of the best pieces of advice I could give to someone, and probably what's got me to where I am now is that any opportunity I've got with someone with different experience to me, I always ask lots of questions, and that really helps. What else would I say? I would also say, you know what, life is short, and it's so varied and it's so big, and I would say enjoy it and have fun while you do it, because there's no point in doing all the work if you're not enjoying it. I think that's what I'd say.
Wow. 13-year-old, you would love that. Can we give that a round of applause? I love that answer. Yes. What else would we say to our 13-year-old selves?
I think I would say to my 13-year-old self, never be afraid of taking risks, because I grew up initially, whilst we were waiting for council housing, I grew up in a hostel for homeless families, and I spent 2 years from about 11 to 13, so exactly that kind of age group, living in a 10-foot by 12-foot room with my mum and my younger brother. And I think back then, people would have labeled me as the type of person that would have no chance of being successful in life. And I really believe that we deal our own cards. And so I would just reassure that 13-year-old self that you can do anything that you want to do, and to never live your life by other people's limitations, and to be brave and to be bold and to go out there and take risks, because you're never going to go back there. And I think so often we're driven by fear. And so we don't do the things that we really want to do because we're fearful of what might happen. But the reality is that regret weighs far more than fear. So if we get to the end of our lives and we look back, we're going to regret all the things that we didn't do, all the chances that we didn't take, so much more so than the things that we went for, even if those things didn't work out. Because what I can tell you with all my experience of being an entrepreneur across multiple industries and disciplines and having many, many successes and also many failures is the failures paved the way to the success. So when you're on this journey, in the moment, a failure feels like that's the end of the world. But actually, it could very well be the opening of a new door, and that is the business that you were supposed to do. And so I would just reassure that bolshy 13-year-old self who was super opinionated and outspoken and got into a lot of trouble at school, just carry on being you. You're good just as you are.
Inspiring. You know what? Sometimes it's easy to forget when you see people that are doing things that they probably started out in places just like we did. So you're saying that you grew up on a council estate. I'm sure so many people here grew up on council estates as well, but yet we look at people and we think, we can never do that because, but actually you are living proof that we can do what we want.
100%.
So I love that. Chloe.
So, I actually have a mini-me, so I can also message her. So she is 9.5, nearly 10, and actually today it's fancy dress day at school and she went dressed as me. So she really is a mini-me. It was like super cute. Except she's got long blonde hair, so I could never pull that off. And she's an entrepreneur, so she's designed a toy. And when she was 7, and we've tried to get it made. And so I guess my message to her is, if you have ideas, you just have to do it, because the hardest thing is actually getting from idea stage to actually putting something into place. When you meet anybody who's an entrepreneur who has actually gone to that next level, loads of people would have said, that thing that really annoys me with the fridge, and then, I wish I could have this, but never actually do anything about it. You can build a prototype out of cardboard. You can put something on paper, send it to yourself. There's so many things that you can do, and so many resources here that I'm learning about as well that can help you. So I think to my mini-me, who is my daughter, I just say to her, just do it, just actually get it done, because that's the most powerful thing that you can do.
Amazing. I'm waiting to see what your daughter does. What's her name?
Her name's Lana.
We're going to look out for the name of Lana when she invents something amazing. What would I say to my 13-year-old self? I'm going to just take a little bit from what everyone said and just say, do what you want. I think I used to get very in my head about things at 13. I didn't think things were possible. I was a little bit nervous. But when you actually start to do something and you pick up the momentum and you just keep doing it, and eventually you've got successes and failures behind you, but you've kind of done it and you're like, it's been 5 years and I'm still here. So yeah, that's what I would say to my 13-year-old self. Who wants to pick a card next? Let's go to Shah. Shah, pick a card.
Okay, I've already picked one. It's not really that interesting. I feel like I should pick another one.
Pick another one. If it's not good, pick another.
Unless you guys all want to spend 10 minutes talking about ChatGPT, which I think is like...
Maybe we do.
Oh, this one is way better. Okay, you guys better be ready for a hot topic. Embracing equity. Before I read out the rest, and I just want to just get a sense of the room. Does it? And if we can just be really honest, because there's no right or wrong answer. But I would just like to know how many people really feel like they truly understand the difference between equality and equity. Put your hands up. Okay. So if you have a look around, most of the room doesn't understand the difference yet between equality and equity. And I think that's a really good starting point, because when we start talking about equality, that's one thing. Equity is something entirely different. Equality is we all get to run the 100-meter race. Equity is we all get to start with the same skill set, the same education, the same support network from the same starting line at the same time. So make no mistake, there is no such thing currently, certainly not in this country, of true equity, whether that's race or gender. And this is an ongoing mission that we all need to face and embrace every single day. And if we believe the hype that actually there is no unconscious bias, and actually nobody's racist and nobody's sexist and there's no misogynist in this country, that's a crock of shit. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to talk it straight. So what does International Women's Day 2023 mean to you? And how do you embrace equity in your business and your life? I really believe that you can't talk about these things. You have to be about these things. So you have to walk your talk. In my business, I work not just with women, but I work with men as well. I run workshops and training programs to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses. So if I want to be about equity, my audience needs to represent everyone, not just a segment of the entrepreneurial population. But that in itself isn't enough. The people on my team need to be diverse and represent equity. And that isn't enough, because the coaches that I pay need to represent equity and equality and diversion. Because talking about it is really easy. And it's very easy to do it to tick a box so that everybody thinks that you're doing the right thing. But if you're only doing that to tick a box, personally, I would much rather you were honest and stop ticking the box. You need to be about it, not just talk about it. So as a company, that means that we work from the inside out, not from the marketing materials in. So my company is diverse. My company demonstrates equity on all levels, from all different backgrounds, whether that's neurodiversity, whether it's race, whether it's gender. And as a result, you see that in the audience at my events, in the people who join our programs and our workshops, because you can't be what you can't see. And as a woman, as a female entrepreneur who has primarily worked in very male-dominated industries, I cannot tell you the number of times I have been the only female in a boardroom, the only woman at a conference. And when guys ask me, why are there no women here, let alone any non-white woman? So, you know, it's a small miracle that there's a white woman there, but that's about as far as it goes. And when they ask me, why is this? I'm like, do you look at your marketing materials? Because if I was to look at your marketing materials, it's representing bro marketing. All I can see is a bunch of white dudes who personally I don't think I have anything in common with, but because I'm that kind of, if you hadn't guessed already, outspoken type, I kind of feel like a sense of duty that I have to go there because you're all guys, so I have to go, because I have to do something to change the status quo. But if you actually mean what you say and you want to create equity in your events, in your business, then you need to make your events and your business look like you are for everyone. That means that your marketing materials need to represent everyone. It means that your decision-making team needs to demonstrate equity from the grassroots all the way up to the boardroom. And until people are prepared to do that, personally, I don't believe they're taking it seriously.
Okay. I feel like you answered that for us all, Shah. So.
It's a personal mission of mine.
No, I can definitely tell. It seems like you're very passionate about that, and that is very important. So important, especially with International Women's Day and just generally. Yes, love that. Okay, let's move on to another question. Who hasn't picked a question?
Can I look at them first? Can I? Oh,
Are you
know
gonna
what?
pick a
I'm gonna
juicy
go
one?
with this one. It's a good one. It's a good one. So, embracing being a woman in business. There you go. What are the realities of starting a business and getting into entrepreneurship as a female from your standpoint? So yeah, I mean, I can definitely talk to this. It's really difficult. We were kind of talking a little bit backstage. I think when you're a woman and you start a business and you're married to a man, which not everybody is in that situation, but I am in that situation, I think a lot of people assume it's kind of like a hobby. They kind of think, your husband's really rich and he can pay for the mortgage and it's just like a little thing. Or a lot of the things that I found is sort of like when they say, what do you do? And I say, I run my own business. They're expecting me to say, I have a cupcake business or, something small that I do on the side, and then I go, I'm the founder of a tech startup. And it's just like a visceral reaction. And it shouldn't be, right? Like it shouldn't be. And I think I've been in so many social situations where people ask my husband what he does for a living and don't ask me. And that's insane.
How do you handle those situations? Do you kind of interject and say, and this is what I do, or do you just let it go by?
I don't let anything go by. Yeah. No, I don't. I just go, I just kind of start talking and then they sort of wander off. So I think, so that's kind of, I guess, one aspect of it, of being a woman in business, right? Which is just that there is an expectation that this is a hobby for me, or it's not something that I'm taking seriously, or that it's something I don't need to do. I need to do it. I also need to make money, right? I also need to pay our mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. I think the other thing is when we talk about raising investment, which we may come across later, I am the founder and CEO of the company, and I am a woman, but I'm not a female founder, and I do have a bit of an issue with kind of this. I am the founder of the business. The business is founded by a woman, and it's co-founded by a woman, and that's it. We just both happen to have uteruses, and that, and that's it. We both happen to found this business, and I think it's, am I as qualified as a man in this position? Hell yeah. Have I done and gone through the path in life to earn the position to run this business? Yes, I have. Should I have to justify it to anybody, male, female, or otherwise? No. So I guess that's my lived experience of being a founder and a female founder of a startup. And I guess mostly it's just frustration.
I think we can kind of relate to that.
Yeah.
What I really don't like being described as is a female comedian. Because I'm like, no, I'm just a comedian. Like, how about we just say that? So the frustration part, I completely understand that. Should we move on to?
Can I just add something to this? 'Cause
Yes.
Just, unless, I don't want to interrupt if you've got something to jump
No,
in.
it's fine.
You can always just kick me.
I'm okay.
I'll be quiet. The reason I want to share this is because I used to feel like this. In fact, I used to be so adamant. I am in business and I happen to be a woman. Get over yourselves. I wouldn't go to any female functions. I would never go to any all-women's events. I just would not, because I didn't want the label. And I would say probably over the last 5 years, my attitude has changed. And it's changed. It's not that I'm 100% in agreement with both of you. However, and this is my caveat and why I wanted to jump in, is because I actually think that given the tiny, minute number of women that get proper investment from the VC community, I feel that we actually have to own the fact that we are female founders. We shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to. But because we represent less than 2% of all funding, if we don't stand up and be counted, and if we don't use our voice as female founders to say, I am a female founder, I fear that it's going to take longer for those statistics to change. And that actually our best weapons to change the status quo is community, collaboration, and actually coming together. But if we don't hear enough about female founders, then we are going to keep buying into the rhetoric that there isn't money out there for us, which is a whole nother conversation. But whilst I agree with those sentiments, and I used to literally have them tattooed on my arm, I've now changed because I think that I have a greater responsibility to those who are coming after me.
That's an interesting point, because again, applause very much due. I'm still in that stage of really rejecting the whole female comedian thing, because I just see it as, why are we separating if I'm just potentially funny? Why put the female in front of it? I may evolve to that thought process though. But I think
it's a different thing.
Yeah.
I think people can see who you are, right? That's you are.
Whereas if it's just a business, you need to
it's
put
an
that at the
entity,
forefront.
It's slightly different. So
Yeah.
I can understand, why do people need to say that? They can see you. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's slightly different, maybe.
Slightly different.
Yeah.
I think it's about audience though as well. Like I think to your point, like I don't want to have to justify that I'm a female founder of a startup to the business community, right? To clients or to investors. But to a primary school where I want to go in and I want to represent, absolutely I want to be showing that I'm a female founder. So I think, I agree, but I do think it's about, you know, the audience that you're kind of talking to.
So it kind of evolves wherever you go. You
Yeah.
can use it where. Interesting. I want to kind of put the questions out, but we're going to hold questions to the end. So if you do have questions, keep them in your mind, because at the end we're going to open the floor. Priya, have you asked to answer the question? You
Yeah,
picked
I
up a
did the
card.
first
Have we all
one.
picked up a card?
Yeah.
Yes, we
you
do.
haven't
You
picked
haven't
up the
picked one.
cards.
That's very true. Give me the cards.
Come
Come
on.
on.
You can't see them this time.
This is the one that you had, and I'm going to put this down.
Boring, right?
I come back.
Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Embracing the movie of you. If someone was to create a movie about your life, who would play you in the movie of your life and why? Who would play me in a movie? See, I want to say Beyonce. Because why not? No, I don't know who would play me. I think the movie would show the story of a person that has come back to herself over 30 years, because I feel like that's the journey I'm on at the moment. I don't feel like the story is complete. It's evolving, but over the last, I'd say 5 years, I've definitely come back to who I am, followed my dreams, put aside all the doubts, and said, you know what, this is what I want to do with my life, and I'm just going to do it, despite the fact that I didn't see it happening in my world. All of my family worked for the NHS. I was very tempted to do the same, because I thought, well, that's just what we do. But no, I got to 25, and I said, actually, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do something different. So I did. I think it would tell that story, and it'd be a TBC. There'd be sequels, because it's not finished yet. That's that.
Love that.
Does anyone else want to? Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share their?
I want to know who would play you, Priya?
Yeah.
I've got no idea. I was saying this in the cab on the way here. I don't know. I'm Indian and Nigerian, and I don't have any people that are from a similar background. I don't know anyone that's from a similar
So
background.
you would have to play yourself.
No. I like being behind the camera. I don't know who would play me, but I think if there was to be a film about my life, I think it would be a story of succeeding in the face of adversity. Similar to Shah, I was brought up on a council estate, a single parent, and I've had great times in my life. I've suffered great grief and loss in my life in lots of different ways, and I think it would just be a film where the person keeps getting knocked back and then keeps going up and knocks back, keeps going up. But I think, try not to jinx anything, but at the moment things are going okay. So yeah, I think that it would be hopefully inspirational, and I think it would be a real celebration of culture and where I'm from. And you know, I decided to do a creative job at the neither side of my family wanted me to do this job, basically, at the beginning. It was really like quite a scary thing. I think being from immigrant families on both sides, they just want you to succeed. And to say, I want to be a fashion designer, it's like you've got a 1 in a million chance, I guess. So I think it would probably explore that element of it, but now they're very proud, and so it would also explore the joy of it as well.
I have a question about the pushing through that. So when your parents, Nigerian and Indian, was it?
Yeah.
So I know that Nigerian people often, they want the children to be, you know, doctors and lawyers.
Lawyers, yeah, same with
Yeah.
Indian people.
So how did you kind of see that, hear that, and think, I'm going to continue doing fashion designing anyway?
I just didn't want to do anything else. I did do work experience at a vet for one day and I cried my eyes out. I just could not take it. It was actually traumatizing. I could still sort of visualize everything, and it was about 14 years ago. And I did toy around with interior architecture for a bit. They liked the sound of that more because it had architecture in it. I guess it sounded a bit better. But see, I just really didn't want to do anything else. And I think my mum was like, well, you better do well in school, you better do well in your A-levels, and you better do well in your degree, and then you can do what you like. And so that's kind of what I did. I worked hard. Not really that hard, though. I think I was lucky in school. I was kind of took to things quite easily, but I made sure I had a well-rounded education, and I think when my family could see the passion and could see that I was like, I was interning all summer. Every summer that I was at uni, I only had to do one, but I did all three, and I was freelancing early. I got a job from my BA. I walked straight, finished my BA. 2 days later, I went to work as a design assistant. And so, like, I had, like, a dogged determination. And then I think they believed in me. And then, yeah, they bet on the right horse, I think, so.
They absolutely did. They absolutely did. Does anyone else have a story of their life? What would it look like?
I'd like Dolly Parton to play me.
I can see that.
She's too old.
Yeah, but forget the fact that she's really look like me. But like, she's just an inspiration. Like for me, like that. Like I would love that to be my story. Like she didn't give a toss. Do you know what I mean? She just broke through barriers. And also she was always her whole life underestimated. Right? Like everybody looked at her and went, you look a certain way, therefore, you sound a certain way, therefore, I'm going to put you in this box. And she was like, I'm not going to be put in that box. I'm going to, do my own thing. So to be fair, I feel like the story of my life played by Dolly Parton would just be the story of Dolly Parton's life.
Yeah.
And has she not done that yet? Because she probably should.
I don't think she's.
Do you know there's like a whole like Dolly Parton like fun fair like Disneyland?
Dollywood.
Dollyland.
Dollywood,
Yeah, it's called
yeah.
Dollyland.
Where is that?
I don't know where it is in
feel like
Dolly
it's in
Parton
America.
land.
It's
America's a very big place.
We'll organise a trip.
We will. That's amazing. Shah, do you want to weigh in?
Well, I would probably just say I want J-Lo to play me just so that I can have her abs.
Oh,
Is
yes.
that all right? I mean, I think that's pure enough reason in itself.
Yeah.
We love that. If you cannot get them now, get them in a film with J-Lo. Yes. Okay, next question. So let's go back around then. So we've all picked one. We have about 15 minutes left of this.
Okay.
So we're gonna
Sorry, I'm just not reading all of them.
pick the most interesting. Pick the one that resonates with you. Oh, are we all just reading them all
Okay.
now? Is that?
I think this one's good, and it pertains to me and my experience of like having a
This
business.
is.
So my one is embracing barriers and fences. What opportunities to break barriers have you seen within getting seen in press, gaining visibility, and being recognised by key stakeholders? What barriers are you breaking in business? I think that one is really like key to me because, as I've already said, I'm Indian and Nigerian. I'm a woman, and when I was growing up and wanting to be a fashion designer, and I was looking at all the creative directors and like the people at the biggest houses in the world, they were all white and they were normally men, and it was very rare you would get a woman. And it's still mainly men. And I still persevered through wanting to do this job, even though I had no one to like benchmark to. I had no one that could culturally relate to me. I loved the shows, I loved the creativity of it, but I never saw anything that felt like home to me. I would love everything in them, but nothing connected with me inside and emotionally. And so I basically launched my brand, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go all guns blazing. I think when I was studying, like I was always looking at like whiteness and Eurocentric art and this and that. And then I was like, why am I even doing that? Like, I want to celebrate where I'm from and be a representative to the next generation after me. And so then I really embraced who I am and my culture and my history. And then I launched the business like literally all guns blazing. The first shoot was in India. I launched with all black and brown models. My team is black and brown. I celebrate my heritage in my work. And I think for me, I have smashed so many barriers in the sense that I'm even here today as a designer and as a business owner from my background, but also like I just don't even give anyone the chance to try and give me a barrier. I'm like, if I step in a room, I am who I am, and that's it. I am confident in representing what it is I believe in, and I guess no one really has the balls to really ever like try and put a fence in front of me anymore, because it's who I decided to launch the brand as from the beginning. So for me, it's not even being brave, I'm just being myself. That's just the way I am. But I do seriously see the value of like having representatives in industries that are from different places. Like we see it in my own business. We do like different workshops with different sort of like, now I'm losing my train of thought, like different groups. So for example, Flourish and Diversity, or we've worked with Mentoring Matters, or we've done things in schools. And I know from talking to the kids and the young people in those places, like seeing people that look like them reflected back gives them power and strength to believe in that they can do it too. And so for me, it's like so big. It's such of a big topic, but it's actually also just the way I am, and it's I don't have to, I don't have to think about like, do I have a D&I policy, because I am the D&I, and it's in my blood. So it's for me. It's just what I need to do. It's just natural to me. So
there were so many quotable lines there. There was I don't. What was it? I walk with the. What did you say? I don't give anyone the chance to put the barriers in front of me. I don't even give them the chance.
Yeah, you don't.
Wow. Yes, I love that. Does anyone else want to weigh in on that particular question? Breaking barriers.
Yeah, I guess it's different for me, and I have different barriers, I guess, that are in front of me. But yeah, I mean, I also agree with that sentiment, which is you kind of shouldn't necessarily even see the barrier, right? If you give it attention, if you make it a thing, then it's an issue. But yeah, try and smash through every barrier that comes our way. It's just a challenge. That's how I see everything in life.
I think that depending on the industry that you work in, or the industry that you want to launch a business in, barriers are different. It's not just about your ethnicity or your gender. Always, it can be a multitude of things. People judge you on so many levels. But from my experience working in a predominantly male environment my whole entire career, the one thing that I would say is when you want to go and raise money, it is such a male-dominated environment that I would love to say there are no barriers, because I don't see any barriers, but that's not the truth. The truth is there are barriers all around, and my attitude is that, just like Priya said, you can't allow those barriers to hold you back. But I'm pretty outspoken, and so I have sat in investor meetings, and rather than feeling intimidated by a room full of men, I'm very happy to call out the elephant in the room. And before we even start, I ask them, how many female-run businesses have you invested in the last 5 years? And you know what happens? There's a deathly silence. Because either they haven't invested in any, or they don't actually know, and 3, they now realize they're in trouble. Because if I know you haven't invested in any, and you don't invest in a business, this is a very sad actual truth, and I know, Chloe, you've experienced this. You can research this, it's been documented, very well documented, but any one of us women up here could come up with an idea for any different type of business. And we could go to a VC, and we could try to raise money to invest in our business in any industry. And now, we can take that very same idea, and we can replace ourselves with a white male. And that white male will have a 10 times chance of getting investment. How does that stack up? That is a massive barrier. And in my opinion, the only way you can break down those types of barriers is with a sledgehammer. So you have to confront it. You have to talk about it. You have to talk about the elephant in the room. And I am not expecting any VC to invest in female-run businesses that don't deserve the investment. But what I am expecting is equality and equity in them looking at, in fact, I actually think that what should happen is that the concepts get put forward without anyone's name on it. So the concept, as opposed to the person, is being looked at first and foremost. And then, and only after that point, is the founder then called in to pitch. Because I'm convinced that some VCs will automatically disregard ideas that are put forward by women through their own stereotypical conditioning, believing, particularly if you're a young woman thinking that you're going to go on maternity leave and they don't want to invest in women who are going to take time out of their business because they want you to be working 24/7 to get them their return on their investment. So when it comes to barriers, they are very much alive, and we all have a collective duty to break them down.
Absolutely. I think we all have barriers in our own ways. In all the different industries, no matter what industry you may be in, there are barriers. I bet you can probably think of like 1,000 right now. You could be in nursing, you could be in teaching, you could start your own business, whatever it is, there's always barriers. But like I think everyone has said, you just have to break them down. Don't let people give you the barriers, knock them out of the way. I have a Birmingham accent, and a lot of people tell me to this day, you are not going to go far because you have a Birmingham accent. I remember I was in uni, and I did journalism and media, and a lady from the BBC, she came in, and she was like, right, so I'm here to talk to you about, you know, radio presenting. And I was like, oh, yay. And then she said, and I never forgot this, she said, now, if you're from the Midlands, you probably won't get that far because your accent isn't as likable. And I was sat there like, okay, so that's the end of this course then, isn't it? Because what am I going to do now? But lo and behold, she was incorrect. I am now presenting on radio. And there you go. So we all have, it happens across the board. But I guess you cannot let those barriers determine what you think about yourself. How much longer do we have on? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Okay, we can do another one. Let's go. I see, you know, earlier on Jacqueline said this is the disruptive part of us, because this was not the format of this. Yeah. Like, we were meant to pick them up face down and not know.
Sorry. I think the whole panel will like this one.
Okay.
Embracing the future is female. And by the way, being pro-female doesn't make you anti-male, just for the record. A controversial topic title, explain in the context of business where you see the role of women in business and entrepreneurship for the future. What is the future that you would like to see? So as we've only got 10 minutes, I don't want to take up all 10 minutes. I'm going to keep mine short and pass it down. So I think what I would like to see is I would like to see women really growing into themselves as entrepreneurs. And if you want to run a lifestyle business, making cupcakes or doing anything else, go for it. I'm all for sovereignty of decisions. If that is what you want to do, amazing. But if it's not what you want to do, and you're being led to believe by outside forces that that is all you should be doing, that is not okay. So I would like to see a future where female entrepreneurship is receiving equitable funding to male entrepreneurship. I would like to see a future where female entrepreneurship is embracing every single solitary sector of business, where female entrepreneurship drives collaboration, where we not only believe as a theory, but feel as a reality that collaboration and not competition is the answer to growth for all of us. So in short, I would like to see the future of female entrepreneurship being bigger and bolder and braver and way more funded than it currently is.
Absolutely. Priya?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really have that much to add to that. I really do echo all of your sentiments. But I also think that, I know that it's International Women's Day, but I think that we should think beyond just also thinking about women. Like, you know, there's trans people, gender non-conforming, like different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think that, like, I would like to see business being more embracing of everyone. I know that maybe you shouldn't be saying that on International Women's Day, but I think it's true, and I think that actually embracing everyone from all different backgrounds and different orientations or whatever they might be is so much more helpful for business. Like, it's like proven statistically, like the more different points of view you have in a room, the better your business is going to thrive. And I agree, like, much better access to like funding. You know, business is still like a real boys' club. Like, it's slightly different for me. I don't know. It's slightly different for me. I'm not in a tech space, so I do have. There is a little bit more leeway with that. But if I go to like, if I look at the big conglomerates in fashion, it's all men and they're all European, and it's like, you know. So I think I agree. I would really like to see more women and all people actually from different backgrounds in decision-making positions and being the ones that have the money. That would be great.
Being the ones that have the money. Yes. Chloe?
Yeah, I would like entrepreneurship to be taught in schools. So I think there needs to be when kids dress up, they still dress up as traditional role models, right? Like that's never really changed. Like, we haven't really changed the language. I went to an all-girls school, and it was never, I mean, like, entrepreneurship wasn't even there's no career book. I mean, to be fair, I'd probably, I went to school in like the 60s. So, it just wasn't really talked about, like, that girls can grow up to actually be entrepreneurs, that you can run your own business. There's a lot more now about STEM, which is amazing, but it's still not really talked about that you can run your own business. And I do think I would have started, like, so long ago. My mum's in the audience tonight, but she probably remembers I used to build businesses, like, on our stairs. The footfall was really low. Like, literally, her and the dog that would come up the stairs to the shop. But they all bought, so I feel like it was a successful business right back then. So yeah, but I think that, that you kind of have it in you, you have it in you, but like, to actually have someone who identifies that actually, you probably should nurture that, and that's probably a business, and actually you'd probably be quite good in that scenario. That just doesn't seem to be, I don't know, that doesn't seem to exist in modern schools today.
So mentorship, that's what we'd love to see.
Yeah, knowing that it is a career path that you can take.
Knowing that it is a career path, and then having people that can say, okay, let me help you along that, like they sometimes do with men. Women taking up space, inclusion, that's what we see as the future. I would echo all of that. I feel like I feel like you all said the the words for me. Absolutely, just women knowing that we can, and then doing it without feeling as though we have to look to a man, I guess. We can just do it on our own and go for it. That's what I would love to see. Ladies, thank you so much. Can we get a round of applause for the panelists? We have Shara at the end. We have Priya. We have Chloe. Where can we find each of you before we skedaddle off? If you want to follow along what you're doing, your businesses, your fashion. This is also a design that Priya has designed, by the way.
Stand up.
Can we just?
Oh my God.
Let's demonstrate.
Can we just?
Thanks.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. So very
my worst
quickly, in a word, if you're on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, where can we?
LinkedIn, so Chloe Sweden. I'm the CEO and founder of Plants and Perks, which we talked about, but we help employees to live sustainable lives. We are about to rebrand, so but you can find me on LinkedIn, Chloe Sweden.
Lovely.
Lots of places. So my website is alawalia.world. Instagram is @alawalia. Our TikTok is @alawalia.world. Oh, my marketing team is sitting over
Sorry,
there.
I'm going to jump in a second. Can you actually spell that for everyone so that if they don't know,
It's behind us.
but they won't be able to see that.
Isn't it on the event?
Can you see that? Can everybody see from all the way back there? I don't want anyone to want to follow you and not be able to find you.
Okay. My surname is spelled AHLUWALIA, and that's Alawalia. And so alawalia.world is our website, @Alawalia on Instagram, and @Alawalia.world on TikTok. I'm sure I'm missing something. We're also on LinkedIn as Alawalia.
So I did that little nudge because I'm used to it. Because with a name like mine, I always get people like ask me, so how do you spell that? So I know that sometimes it's difficult, especially if you're at the back, to know. So I have an unusual name, Shah Wasmond, and therefore actually it's quite easy to find. So you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on LinkedIn, and it is just my name, SHAAWASMUND. And maybe the even easier place is just to go to SHAA.com. And that's it. I am very proud to say that I own my own domain name in my own name.
Woo!
And yeah, four letters is a pretty damn good domain name, I'll have you know. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, ladies. Give them another round of applause. They will be back for a Q&A after we have our next guest. Ladies, please, you can take a seat at the front. We saved you seats because we're nice like that. And I'm going to introduce to the stage as they make their way off. Now, this is an absolute icon that we are about to hear from. British television and radio presenter, as well as an author, singer, and founder of The Making of Black Britain. In 1990, she made front page news as the first black presenter of BBC One's Blue Peter and Songs of Praise. Over the last 3 years, this person has been creating a legacy through her oral history archive, The Making of Black Britain, which recently launched on Google Arts and Culture. She also offers digital storytelling workshops to create space for listening and provides the opportunity to digest information in a really meaningful way. Like I said, absolute icon. I'm going to sit here, so I'm more central. Coming to the stage is Diane Louise Jordan.
Do I sit here?
You can sit next to me.
Thank you.
Like I said, legend. When I first saw her, I was like, I feel like I'm meeting royalty. Like,
You know they say legend when you've been around for a really long time. So thanks. I'm very old. Thanks.
I'm going to say icon. So Diane, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here. Your background, as I said, is in TV presenting. A lot of people know you from Blue Peter, Songs of Praise. You also have other talents, authoring books, singing. And you've started a business. You don't sing. Well, why have we said that she sings?
Do you know, I read the notes and they said you sing, and I'm like, my family would go, she does not sing. Unless it's to empty the room. I certainly don't sing.
I thought maybe it was a hidden talent because I did try to find
it is
music.
hidden.
Okay.
It's definitely hidden.
Very, very hidden.
But I'll accept all the rest.
Okay, so those talents are inspirational, maybe not the singing, but the rest of them. And you are, of course, a woman in business. You launched the business during the pandemic, which is amazing. Can you give some insights into the learnings that you got from that, the messages? What was it like to start up that business? And from a very untraditional background as well.
So what happened is, I've actually run businesses in the past because years ago, in my early days of starting Blue Peter, you know, I had a bit of cash, so I started actually buying lots of properties. So before I knew it, I was actually running a business and, you know, so stumbled into it that way. And again, I think with this archive, again, it was something that came from a passion. You know, I just really wanted to create the archive. So what happened was, the roots of this archive happened about, 15 years ago. So, and it came about because I wanted to know more about my own history. So basically, The Making of Black Britain is an oral history archive collecting the stories of everybody from every class, colour, creed, and throughout the generations. And it came about because I wanted to find out about my own history. And I started asking my parents about their history to make sense of mine. Now, when I started speaking to my parents, and I don't know if there are any other Caribbean people in the room and if they're anything like my parents, whenever I asked them about their lives, they'd go, oh, you don't want to know, it's boring, I'm too busy, I can't remember. So but I was really persistent because I really wanted to know about that history. So on the rare occasions that they agreed to share some of their life with me, because my shorthand was not very good, I would get a recording device just to literally record as much of their story as possible. Anyway, so that's how I sort of started doing it, thinking it was just something personally for me, didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to grab a bit of their history. Then in 2011, within 6 months of each other, very sadly, both my parents died. So obviously, I'm gutted that my parents have died, and it felt like a huge part of my life had gone with them. And particularly, I felt that I was I had a little bit of a regret that I hadn't really pursued them to find out more of their story. Now, one of the things that I hadn't planned for was the joy, in fact, of hearing their stories recorded. So I'd been recording their stories, and I'd only done that as a device in order to, sort of do my shorthand really quickly. But all of a sudden, once they'd gone, hearing their voices took on a really, it was quite momentous for me, and it felt really special. And so I started talking to some of I'm first generation Black British. My parents are, from what people now traditionally call the Windrush generation. So I started talking to other first generation Black British like me about their experiences. And they too had this sort of hunger to make sense of their heritage through, finding out about their family stories as well. And so I just thought, what I'm going to do? I didn't actually know really what I was going to do, but I just thought what I am going to do before their parents die is I'm just going to record all those voices, because there is something quite powerful about people telling their own story, creating their own history through their very own voices. Not just me writing something down, but really hearing the tone and the texture and all of that stuff. So I just started collecting these stories. And as a broadcaster, I thought, well, maybe, one of the main broadcasters will be interested, and maybe we'll make a documentary about this, or maybe I'll write a book. But I really didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I just had this hunger in me that just wouldn't stop. I just kept, collecting stories. And so anyway, fast forward to 2018. I set up a production company because I thought I just wanted to make lots of, there were programs that I wanted to make. So we had a little team, and we were, sort of had these program ideas that were progressing. I think it might have been 2018, 2019, I can't remember. But anyway, we were, one of the ideas was this, and at that time I called it the Legacy Generations, and, I had very good response from Channel 4 in particular, and we went right up to the wire where we thought they were going to commission it. And in the 11th hour, they said, Diane, this is such a great idea, but we're not going to commission it because the time that it would come on, we'd probably want it to be on TV, probably around about the 9 o'clock mark, and that's just after Love Island. And to be quite honest, a Love Island audience won't really be interested in this. Thank you. Now, normally, I think that I'm quite quite an easygoing person. My husband's here, he might disagree. But I think that I'm quite, I'm quite polite anyway. But on this particular occasion, when they turned down my great idea, I was really angry. And I didn't shout, I didn't hide it. And I was like, you're wrong. This is a great idea. And, I'm going to pursue this with or without Channel 4. Had no idea what I was going to do. Even within my production team, I kept trying to share this idea with them, and again, they sort of got it, but they didn't really get it, and so it was almost feeling like it was falling on deaf ears. What I'd say to anybody here, if you've got an idea, if you've got a passion, and it doesn't matter if everybody around you keeps telling you that it's not a great idea, if it's something that you're really, really passionate about, you can't put it down. I encourage you to just keep going, because there will always be the right time for your project to have its place. So then here we go into 2020. And, we're walking into lockdown. Now, at that point, our production team, there were a couple of things on the table, just about to be commissioned, really going really well, everything fantastic. And then lockdown happened. And for a while, all of broadcast seemed as if it went into that sort of, it just sort of stopped. Yes. But everybody was at home, and then Zoom appeared. And I kept nagging everybody about this idea that I had. And I just kept saying, you know, why can't you see it? It's really great. But because all the commissioners were at home, all the, you know, everybody was at home, they're all in their bedrooms, and they're probably not knowing quite what to do. And my team as well were thinking, well, okay, we don't really know what to do. Let's just humour her. And that's how the project started. We were sitting in, you know, I was sitting in a room at home. You may remember in those first 3 months, it was really sunny. I got out into the garden, so I'd have shorts on and my wellies, and then from the waist up, I looked like I was in my office. And we had this captive audience, and we had people, you know, colleagues from, not just in Britain, we had colleagues from America, from Africa, you know, people around the globe who were joining our meetings. And, you know, really, you know, people that were sort of quite high flyers who maybe, if we were trying to get them all in the same room at the same time, in the flesh would have been almost impossible because of, you know, how would we get people from America traveling over just to have a chat with Diane Louise Jordan and one of her weird ideas. But, you know, they were there. And so this idea slowly started coming to fruition. So from my point of view, you know, a time where a lot of us were thinking, gosh, will we ever work again? And I know it was a really tough time for a lot of people. I'm not dismissing that. But we were just in that, I think it was the right time. And it wasn't an overnight thing. You know, as I said to you before, you know, I've had this in me for like 15, 20 years. But it was something that just wouldn't go. And that's how it started building.
Wow, Diane, what a story. Because that really speaks to the point of this, disruptive, not letting someone say, maybe not. You just literally disrupting what they said and say, actually, no, I want to do this and I want to continue it. And look at it now. That's amazing.
Well, I think also Chloe was saying about her daughter having an original idea. And I think everybody's... If you know, there's so many things you can look at and think, why does that not work? Or why is there a gap there? Or you can be any age, any class, any color, you know, it can happen at any time in your life. But if there's something there that's sort of just gnawing away at you, it's probably gnawing away at you because you've got something to give. You've got that tiny little gap in the market that people actually want. And there will be a time for you to have that, for it to come to fruition. And the other thing I was just thinking about, when these powerful ladies were all sitting here and they're like, you have got to go for it and you've got to break barriers. And I was like, wow, you know, I don't know if that's my personality, because, you know, but then I started thinking about myself, because also Priya said something that really just sort of struck a chord with me about being yourself and being confident and comfortable in your own skin, whatever that looks like. And years back, you know, decades back, when I first started out, I actually started out as an actress years ago. My husband says he's really glad that that didn't succeed because we'd probably be hungry. I do still love him. But anyway, as it happened, I did work consistently for 7 years, but one of my very first jobs was with a particular theatre company. And I remember they had some sort of meeting about, I don't know what it was about, but it was a meeting that, you know, I really wanted to be at because I had something to say. And I wasn't able to get to the actual meeting. So I remember going into the office and saying to, you know, somebody in charge, I just thought I was thinking, you know, just saying very casually, oh, you know, when you go into the meeting, would you mind, you know, saying this on my behalf? I'd be really grateful. Thinking, you know, if they don't run out of time and if he remembers, he may share my thoughts. What I didn't realize until, you know, about a week later was that this giant of a guy was basically trembling, making sure that he did remember what I said, because apparently I had this aura about me that, you know, when I walk into the room and I say, please, can you do something? It sounds as if I'm going, can you do this? Make sure, life and death. And I didn't even realize I had that about me. And I started saying it to, you know, some members of my family. And they were all like, yeah, you don't seem to realize you've got this thing about you that, you know, when you just expect things to happen. And I'm now realizing we all have that, really. We actually all have that passion inside us. And it's not that I'm bolshy, or I'm really not bolshy, but it's more like if there's something I really care about, and if there's something that I think is really important, I can't let it go. And I think you need that sort of tenacity, particularly if you're a girl in business. You know, I think you really do need to know that. And also, you know, dare I say it, if you are, you know, somebody of color, or if there are other, you know, barriers in front, I think you know, you just have to be even more tenacious. Just really, you know, just really believe that passion that you've got is there for a reason. And, you know, you may have to wait 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You may. But I promise you, don't let go of it, because I promise you it will come to fruition. And it's weird because, you know, I am a broadcaster. I love my job. It's fantastic. But this feels like my life's work. This feels like this is why I've been put on this earth. So at long last, you know, after decades of doing all this other stuff, I feel like, and I really love all the other stuff, but I think at long last, I'm doing the thing that my pulse goes, you know, this is what wakes me up every day.
And that's an important thing to do. Yes, rightly so. It's an important thing to find that thing that makes you feel alive in life. And what I kind of got from that as well is that a lot of times people might think that you need to be really extroverted and the loudest person in the room and all of these different things. But actually, like Priya said, and like you kind of said as well, if you just find who you are, what your passion is, that will carry you to where you need to get to. So you can be quite quiet, but you can also make a stand. You can be more introverted, but you can also make your point. And
the other thing I was going to say from a business point of view, so this archive, we're a KIC, we're a CIC. And as I said to you before, I'd built up this property company. But you know what? I just built that up one house at a time, one apartment at a time, and it just felt like, you know, if you had the money, you could do it. So I didn't really have a clue about business, if I'm being really honest. But you know, it sort of tripped along, and it was fine. What I've actually discovered with doing this job is that I actually have had to really find out about business and how to run this as a businesswoman. And I remember the couple of in the early days, because we've been doing this now for I think we're in our third year. But I remember in those very early days getting on Zoom and seeing a sea of faces. We had about, I don't know, there must have been about 20 people in this first Zoom meeting. And they were all looking to me to lead them. And we had some pretty impressive people in the team. And I literally used to feel sick most mornings thinking, how am I going to do this? There was so much about the business that I didn't know. I didn't even know how to lead a team. I didn't, partly being in TV, you can become quite infantile. You know, you have people ordering your car, getting your hair ready, choosing your clothes, preparing your script. You can actually, and you just turn up as talent. And as long as you can, do your little bit in front of the camera, everybody's happy. But you can be a bit of a brat. You don't have to be a grown-up. I'm not saying I was a brat, but what I'm saying is, you have everybody doing things for you. And then here I was in this situation just 3 years ago, and everybody was looking to me to lead, to give direction, and I found it absolutely terrifying. And one of the things that I did was I was very fortunate because I happened to have a group of people who not only believed in what we were trying to achieve, but they also really cared for me, and I've got a team of people, they watch my back. And there's still so much that I don't know. There are still days where I'm thinking, how the goodness are we getting through this? But what I have got, and I think this is something where I think particularly women excel, is that we do watch each other's back. We've got really loyal people on this team who, I can phone up and I can be in tears going, I have no idea. And they go, don't worry, I've got it sorted, I'll do it. And I do the same for them. It's like finding out where your gift set is, because you won't know everything. But having the humility, I suppose, or the courage to ask for help and to be realistic about what you know and what you don't know. So for me, that's been one of the best things, having an incredible team and, you know, all of us looking out for each other's backs.
Community is very, very important. And I think you learn that as you go on. A lot of people have that thing of, oh, I'm a lone wolf. I don't need anybody. But actually, you do need people. Actually, you need a community of good people around you. So I love that you said that. I have a few more questions. We have about 15 minutes left. I want to ask you about resilience. I mean, you've spoken a little bit about it in now, but throughout your career, talk to us about resilience. How did you stay on the course to keep moving forward when things would come up against you and say, well, you can't do that because you're this race or because you're, you know, I think I read somewhere that you wanted, like you said, you was an actress, but someone told you that you were short. And so they said, well, you're not going to be on TV because you're this, that. How did you keep going in those moments?
So, like a number of the panel, I come from a very working class family. We lived in social housing. My mum and dad, we really, really struggled. In fact, as a child, I used to spend, and I really wouldn't want this for anybody else's child, but I used to spend a lot of my childhood concerned that we wouldn't have enough, because we had to pay our electricity by a meter. And so I used to spend a lot of my time fretting that we wouldn't have enough money by the end of the week to slot into the electricity meter or the gas meter. And because my dad got paid, or both my parents were paid weekly. And so Wednesday nights were quite fretful because Thursday nights my dad, got paid. So, and I didn't like that. And so as a child, I made these little vows to myself that, and I don't really recommend you making vows like this to yourself, but I used to sort of go, when I get older, I don't want my children to worry as much as I used to worry. And so I had that sense of what I didn't want. I also had my grandpa, who lived in Jamaica, he had a saying that he passed down to my mum that she passed to us, which was, whatever you're doing, whether you're running the country or cleaning the country, whether you're right at the top or whatever they think is right at the bottom, whatever you do, give it 100%. Just always work hard. I can't remember, a number of the people on the panel said that about, the one thing you can do is work. Just give it your absolute best. So I already had this work ethic inside me, I think, based on I've just got to do my best. And also, I don't want to starve. So I think without realizing that was a sort of strength that was in my DNA from quite an early age. Anyway, to cut a very long story short, when I was in the sixth form at school, I used to get really nervous about speaking in public. I used to get really nervous about reading in public. I don't know if you were in this situation, but at school they'd ask people to stand up and, in English literature, you'd have to read a paragraph or something. And I used to stutter all the way through, and I'd feel hot and sweaty. I hated it. I was rubbish. And so because I was actually so bad at doing anything in any sort of public speaking or anything where the spotlight was on me, I did actually study drama, but it was drama. It was almost like just studying English literature. There was no acting involved. And so one of the girls in our group, she wanted to be an actress, so she was going to go off to drama school. And so she applied to all the drama schools. I was going off to study English somewhere. That was the plan. But she wanted to be in London because London was the place where, she thought she was going to get discovered. And one of the drama schools that she applied for was just outside of London, so she didn't want to go there, but she had the application form. And because I was, as I told you, not, very good in public, she set me a little dare. They thought it was funny for me to fill in this application form for drama school. So I'm, rising to the challenge, and, my granddad's words in my head, whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability. I filled in the application form, and then I got an invitation to come and audition. So they upped the dare. So I prepared for this dare, because I can't turn down the dare. So I prepared for the audition, and I went along to the audition with my two friends who dared me, shoulder, either side of my shoulder, to make sure I actually carried out the dare. And I got there, went through the whole audition thing, saw all these absolute theatrical types who were really amazing, and I was like, gosh, I'd never stand a chance to get through here. Anyway, to cut a long story short, at the end of the day, while we were on the audition, they invited me to come and study. So they offered me a 3-year place. So I thought, well, why not? It was a really lovely looking campus. It was in the country. I thought, yeah, why not? So anyway, I went off to drama school thinking, I can just study plays and it'll be exciting. And then when that's finished, I'll think about a proper job. So I had no desire at all to do this performing thing. But then in our final year, the course director, whose wife was actually a casting agent at the time as well, very well-known one, he took us all in to give us little pep talks about how to set up for the world of acting. And he said to me, and he was really trying to be helpful, this was in 1983, he said, Diane, he said, do you know what? You're actually not a bad little actress. You're quite good. I said, oh, thank you, sir. He said, but you'll never work in this business. He said, because you're, number one, you're only 5 foot nothing, so you're too short to be on TV because, there's a sort of standard size to, for the cameraman or camera people to get you in frame. You look too young for your age, so, unless, you're not going to play a romantic lead or someone's mother. And also, where do you see black Juliets or black Hermias? Because in those days, there was very little sort of cross-cultural casting. So he said, he literally said this to me, unless they're casting for freaks, you don't stand a chance. I know, but he was trying to be helpful. So I thought, you know what? I didn't even really want to be an actress, but let me just see if I can prove him wrong. And to my delight, and maybe to his delight too, I ended up getting a job with a theatre company, and I ended up being actually the first person to leave college with the full equity card, which you needed at that time to, be in the business, and a job for, I think it was about 18 months or something like that. So, that's how it started. And, you talk about resilience. I suppose it was just that someone saying to you, you can't. Well, let me just try. I wasn't even trying to prove him wrong. I just wanted to know if all those things, because I can't change my height. I don't want to change these things anyway. I can't change the color of my skin. I can't change the way I rate. I'm black. I can't change that. Unless I'm Michael Jackson or somebody, I'm going to stay this color. So I just thought, well, I have to, this is me. And if me is the thing that's going to be a barrier for me to get on, I've got to just find out how we navigate this. So it wasn't even me going, it was just, I'm curious, let's just see how this goes. And I think that's been my approach to things all my life. It's like, if someone says, maybe not, I'll go, well, let's just have a look, yeah.
I love that. Can we give a round of applause for just that whole story, whole everything? I think the resilience aspect is yes. Let me just see if what you're saying is true. And it turned out not to be, so there you go. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. I'm going to ask you one more question. It's about you talking to a younger you. So what advice would you give to the Diane before we knew you from Blue Peter, or even from Blue Peter days? Thinking back to that Diane, there might be some women here now that are starting from where you was then, and they might be able to get something from the answer. What advice would you give to her?
Okay, so the thing I'd say to anybody is, be happy with who you are. Be really comfortable with who you are. And, be polite and be gracious, but don't be a people pleaser. And I think one of the things particularly when I started Blue Peter, as I said to you before, when I was at school, I had lots of friends, I was popular, I loved school, but I was really self-conscious in the classroom. I didn't feel like I was a great achiever, and I hated the spotlight being on me because I felt that it would reveal you know, all my faults. And then I went into the world of theatre, and it was fun, and I loved it. It was mainly alternative theatre, and it was so experimental, and it was brilliant. And there were lots of different people, different cultures, and different classes, and different abilities. It was really an exciting time. And then when I got the Blue Peter job, I thought, arriving at the BBC, I thought it was going to be even more creative and open-minded and all of that stuff. And actually, the truth is, it felt the opposite of that. And also, there was a lot of fuss, even before I got the job, about me being the first black presenter and the pressure that that brought with it. There was so much talk. I think it was in the November that I was offered the job, but then and I didn't start until January. And then in those couple of months, literally all the talk was about preparing me for being the first black Blue Peter presenter, because in those days, that had never happened. Blue Peter was a, flagship program for young people. And I said, it was almost like they're like, don't pollute their minds by being the wrong color. So when I started that job on the very first day, I was petrified, because I didn't think, and I'd actually built a bit of courage in those 7 years as an actress, and I felt really free, and I felt courageous and bold. And then it came to Blue Peter, and there was all this stuff about if I get it wrong, it's going to be wrong for every other black person on the planet, it felt like. So I felt a lot of pressure, and I was immensely nervous. And there was a bit of, the press wasn't that great about it at the beginning. And actually, because of that nerves, I really wasn't very good for the first couple of years. And anybody who saw my first year will, the evidence is out there. I'm not being modest. It was catastrophically bad. But I had an editor who believed in me. And he's now like a family friend to me. He's an amazing guy, Lewis Bronze. And he could see that there was something in me. And regardless of, and he got a lot of stick as well. There were people saying to him, you need to get her off because, she's not that great. But he believed in me, and he helped. And gradually my confidence, came to the point where I now think I feel quite comfortable as a broadcaster. But it was tough, because I felt that I had to represent everybody else. And I think the only thing that really kept me going then was those words of my grandfather saying, you know what, all you can do is to the best of your ability. As long as you're turning up and you're a team player, you do your homework, you turn up punctually, all of those qualities, as long as you do that, you're only doing your best. And if they don't like you, that's fine, but you have to do your best. And that's the only thing that kept me going. And also the point that I thought that I'd be, letting down other, people coming behind me. But now it's great. You look back and you just see on TV, I turn on the TV and black girls are taking over. It's like
black
it's lovely.
People everywhere,
yeah,
yes.
I feel really, it's really encouraging to see.
No, you really did pave a way. You honestly did. When I was looking back at Blue Peter days, because I think I was going to do some work with them a few years ago, and I was looking back at all the presenters, and I thought, no, you really did start a whole thing, even if you didn't realize it at the time. You did, and that's amazing. I love that you also said to be happy. I think that's really important. It's something that we often skip over. Just being happy in yourself, that is the foundation to most things, really, isn't it?
I think if you're not comfortable in your own skin, then you're sort of like, you need to be like an oak tree with really deep roots. And you can only be like that if you're completely authentically yourself. That's the only thing that you can do. And that's the best thing you can do, because there's nobody, even if you're identical twins, there's nobody else like you. And I truly believe that every single human being in this room and beyond, every single one of us, we are phenomenal. We're actually phenomenal, and every single one of us has something really unique and brilliant to deposit on this earth and to leave, as our own particular legacies. So that's all I could say. Just, literally, don't let anybody try to persuade you to be who you're not. And your moment will come. You know, I'm old now, you know, and my moment, I just feel like my moment's only just beginning to come now, in terms of what I think I've been put on this earth for. So, and you know, I've been talking to somebody just recently who's 82, and she's like, I'm just alive. I've got some, and that's, you know, it's never too late.
Amazing. Diane, thank you so much. Ooh, that gave me It gave me shivers. I want to thank all the speakers, in fact. So a round of applause for all the speakers that we had today, because they were all amazing. I'm going to hand back over. I'm not going to hand back over? The speakers are coming back up. So we are going to now have a Q&A. So I hope that you remembered your questions when I told you to keep them in your brain. I'm going to move up one. Speakers, if you make your way back to the stage, and then we're going to open the floor to you. So we have people watching online as well. I'm not sure which camera you're watching in on, but...
That's so good.
Hello.
Very inspirational.
Questions online. Okay, let me have a look. Is this a question here? There's nothing. Okay. Right. Trying to get technology and it's a bit all complicated. So, right. Do we have any questions in the room? A few. Okay, I'm going to start and go this way. So, lovely lady. Do we have mics?
I love the choice of models. They're like so
If you
visually striking.
It's one question each. It's a very strict one question per person policy. If you can stand up, give us your name.
I'm not very tall, Cass, you know
She's
this.
not very tall.
Oh. Diane, you're amazing, by the way, what you shared. You clearly are carrying something and you're walking in your calling. It's amazing. My question is, all of you have shared such amazing stuff, but I just want to get a little bit deeper of what is it that grounds you in not just like you mentioned about successes and failures, but what is it for individually and personally that grounds you in those moments and that keeps you centered with the ebbs and flows of business and life and being successful women?
That's a great question.
I don't mind going first. That's a really good question, and I think I'm still learning what that is for me. I'm 30, so I'm pretty young, and so I'm really fortunate. I have access to therapy, and that's, you know, unfortunately not everyone has access to that, but that really helps. And I spent good time with my good friends. I have a really brilliant team, and we are really collaborative in the way that we bounce ideas back and forth. I think I have a great support system around me, whether that's friends. My mum is like oh my God, my mum is just the best in the whole world. And yeah, my team and my partner. And so I think I'm really good actually at like giving myself boundaries of life. Like I 2 years ago got a work phone, and that was the best thing I ever did. And then like, you know, on the weekend, if I'm going out, I leave that phone at home. And I think like putting myself first, not in a selfish way, but in a way that like, I'm always considering like, am I meeting my own needs? So am I getting enough sleep? Am I exercising enough? Like, am I eating well enough? Like, those things help me be a better boss to my team, and they help me be a better creative and think of better ideas. So putting myself first and you know, just actually enjoying life and enjoying like the sentimental and loving and caring moments about it really helps me, because fashion is wild, honestly wild, so it helps.
Love that answer. Does anyone else want to weigh in?
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to get a work phone.
Get one. No, it changes your life, honestly. It's best.
Why have I not got one? So for me, the most important thing is my faith. You know, so my faith is the thing that absolutely grounds me. That's number one above everything else. And as Priya was saying, in terms of getting good people around you, my husband is so faithful. He's like my best champion. When I'm having my worst days, he's like, no, but you're great. I'm like, oh, you're biased. But yeah, please keep telling me. I've got a really wonderful friend at the back who, he's one of my neighbors. He does, like, his name's Malcolm. Everybody needs a Malcolm. He does everything.
Can we get Malcolm to stand up?
Malcolm, can you give me a
And the
wave?
husband. Where?
I don't know where my husband's disappeared to.
There's Malcolm.
But anyway.
Husband's run off.
Husband's over there. He's by the canopies. He's by the food.
Yeah, don't worry. You can see my husband later. But also, I've got my business partner. She's my best friend. She would do anything for me, you know. And I think if you can have somebody, as I said, we've got a really great team. But if you can have that one person in your team who will always watch your back, I wake up so many days crying, going, "Oh, I can't do it." And she's like, "Don't worry, I've got this one. You know. And on the day she's crying, "Don't worry, I've got this one." You know. So you need to have good people, but it's the faith that grounds me.
I love that answer. I love it because as a woman of faith as well, it's very important, if you do have a faith, to be very grounded in that faith. So I love that answer. Chloe?
Yeah, I don't do anything that Priya does. I don't look after myself. I don't exercise. I don't have time for anything. I'm constantly like, I'm just always on the edge.
But I don't have a child, so.
Yeah, but I think actually in terms of what grounds me, I try and remember how lucky I am in everything. So I just kind of go, okay, well actually, I don't overstate that I've nearly died, but I had an ectopic pregnancy, which I hemorrhaged and nearly died. And then I had a heart problem, and I woke up on the operating table while I was having a heart operation. And they didn't know whether I was going to be able to have kids. And so the fact that I'm alive, I'm here, I'm well, my heart's well, I have 2 children now, like that. Because, you know, you don't know, thank you, but you don't know. And so I can go, okay, well, actually, you know, they are the things that kind of, you know, I wake up and life goes on, right? Whatever your life is, like it just keeps moving forwards. So I think just remembering, I had a shocker last week, like a really awful week at work with investment when everything like imploded. And then I have to go, you know, it can't be my identity. I think that's the other thing, like it is so woven into my identity that I am this person, and I wanted to beat the odds. So when you were saying, like, I don't accept that, like, I don't accept that 2% of funding, VC funding, goes to women, and yet I may well be one of those statistics, right? So you have to kind of go, but that's not my identity. I am also a wife, a mother, a daughter, you know, a person in my own right. I am not just Chloe, the CEO and founder. So I think just having perspective, I think also is quite important.
Yes. You woke up on the operating table in surgery.
Yeah.
And
I said,
insane.
How long left? And he said 5 minutes. And I used to be in advertising, so I thought about it in 30-second TV ads. And I was like, that's 10 30-second TV ads.
I can get through that.
It's too long. It's too long. I swear to God.
Wow, what a story. Shah, do you want to
Yeah, I think as I've got older, I've learned the importance of self-care more. So I prioritize going to the gym quite a lot, like 5 times a week. And even when I don't feel like it, because I know I will always feel better afterwards. But if I had to say one thing, it is a support network. There is nothing more important in your life than having a support network. And I was saying to Diane, we share a best friend in common. Aww, and and I've grown up with a real core group of female friends for almost 30 years. And interestingly, we've all become entrepreneurs in our own ways, and we've all come from similar backgrounds. And so we've been able to share that journey together. And what it's taught me through all the ups and downs that we've all had along the way is that financial success is such a small part of the journey. And that if that is the only reason that you're doing this, it's going to be a hollow victory. And I have always been driven to create financial success for what it allows me to do. And for me, that's about creating memories with the people that I love and care about. It's about being able to take care of my family. I'm so grateful. My nan, who's 97, is still with us. Wow. And not only is she still with us, she literally got back from a holiday in Lanzarote last week. Like, she teaches me how
Can
to
I just
live.
say, I'll be getting her story for our archive.
She's
I want your gran.
phenomenal. But it's those memories that we've been able to create as family, as friends. That is so much more important than any amount of money I've made or raised or done anything. So what grounds me is love, friendship, companionship, community, and the recognition that as much as we want our own individual success, we are still all just a small part in a much bigger story.
Are you cold? I'm freezing.
That was a really great question. I feel like there was a lot to unpack in that. I feel like we could just sit here all night and just go through each and everyone's, what really grounds you? Does anyone have a question directed at one member of the panel in particular? Yes, yes. Let's go to the lady at the back first in the white. If we can get the mic. Please stand up, say your name and what's your question?
My name's Charlotte, and I have a question for Shah. I don't know if I misheard at the beginning, but I think you started your first business at 23?
21.
21, wow. So, yeah, that's like super early to start one, and amazing that you had the confidence to do that. I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about that time and also possibly how you sorted the funding for that, whether you bootstrapped or how did you go about that?
Okay, so it is going to sound batshit crazy. I'm just going to caveat this. So I was studying an economics degree at LSE, and I interviewed Chris Eubank Sr., who was the super middleweight boxing champion of the world at the time. And to cut a very long story short, he offered me a job, and I was in my final year at LSE. So it was literally, I think, about 4 weeks before my 21st birthday. And I just said yes, and I didn't have any idea what I was saying yes to. And 2 days later, I found myself on a plane, flying on a private plane with him and his promoter to Manchester to go to Old Trafford, Manchester United's ground, and to be told that I was now personally responsible for putting on the press and promotions for the biggest fight that had ever taken place in the UK. And I'd never done press and promotions in my life. Like, this whole thing was like out of some kind of crazy film. What I will say is that at 21, you have the advantage of naivety on your side. So I didn't know that I should be scared. I didn't know that I should think this is a great, I mean, I obviously knew it was a great opportunity, but for me, it was like, I was prepared to give up LSE to do that. I mean, if anybody had made me make a choice, fortunately I didn't, but if I had to, I knew in that moment that I was never going to get that type of opportunity again, which actually wasn't true. I've had similar opportunities, and I want to talk to that point for a second, because I think that luck isn't just where opportunity meets hard work, and that's the traditional saying, luck is what you make of it. It's, hard work meets opportunity. Actually, luck is where hard work meets opportunity, and then you are brave enough to grab the opportunity with both hands and run with it. And that's what I did. So I found myself at 22, 23 maybe, being the world's first and only licensed female boxing manager at the time. I'm sure there's more now. I was licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control. I went to LSE, I did an economics degree. All my peers were working at JP Morgan, and I'm at the British Boxing Board of Control taking my boxing manager's license. Which one would you rather be? I know which one I wanted to be. I did not want to be at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan because it didn't suit my personality. So I would say you don't have to always find the money. You can bootstrap things. You have no idea who's in this audience right now, that if you connected with them, you could create some new business together. I just think there are so many more opportunities all around us, but we have been conditioned not to see them. And when we do see them, we're too afraid to run with it in case it actually might work. And I think that I was a little bit like a deer in headlights. I mean, if you imagine this, I was a 21-year-old, and I was sat there with Chris Eubank Sr., who was the world champion, super middleweight champion of the world. And he's got quite a full-on personality, right? And he offers me a job. What am I going to say? No? Like, I'm just like, yeah, great. I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, holy, like, what the hell is this? And I just want to talk to another point, and then I am going to be quiet, but I think this is so, so, so important. The power of relationships over the course of your lifetime. one of the things that I'm most proud of is that I worked with Sir James Dyson when nobody knew who he was, and many, many years later when I wrote my first book, he wrote the foreword to my first book. This Christmas, Chris Eubanks Sr. spent his Christmas with me and my family nearly 30 years later. Relationships are the greatest currency we ever have.
And also, I just want to add something to that, because I think what Shah was saying about not focusing on the money, you will, if you are really pursuing something that's fantastic, there's going to be a very big part of that time where there is no money. And you're going to have to pour in everything that you've got. And you're going to wake up days where you're thinking, I don't know how I'm going to, even put food on the table, but I've got to pay my staff and I've got to make things happen. So, even with our company that we've been growing over the last 3 years, I tell you, it's been a white knuckle ride. And there's been tremendous growth, there's lots of wins, but there are so many days. If we were literally just doing this thinking, well, we'll start when we get the money, we would not have anything. So I really, I can't sort of concur with that enough. Don't be driven by the money, and don't let that put you off at all. If you want to start, just start. It will come. And the other thing is relationship. Don't overlook. Sometimes people overlook the doorman or the cleaner or, whoever they think is not as great as they are. Don't overlook those relationships, because you'll be surprised the key relationships that you build, and they've got to be authentic.
Amazing. So I think we have time for one more question. 2 small questions. Okay. So who has a question? Raise of hands.
1, 2, 3,
1,
4, 5.
Okay, so I'm going to go over to this way, to that lady right there. If you could, she's at the very end. You looking around. Yep, you're waving. We've had one from this, one from here, one from there.
Hello. Good evening. I've been in business for a very long time. I'm a wedding dress designer, by the way. I design bespoke couture gowns and red carpet gowns. My name's Cynthia Grafton-Holt. Funding has been my... Can you stand up? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. So we can see your beautiful face.
Funding has been my biggest issue. Now, Shah mentioned that less than 2% of funding goes to female business owners. What percentage of that goes to black business, female business owners? Because that's the biggest barrier to what I do. I've surrounded myself with family, and they're the ones who believe in me and who pick me up on the days when I think it's hopeless, I love what I do, I'm passionate about what I do, but some days it's just too much. Sorry, my hand is shaking and I'm about to fall on the floor. I pushed past every barrier that I know. My father taught me that no is not an answer. My mother said, where there's a will, there is a way. I come from that generation. I've fought, I've scratched, I've paid the staff, I've sold my car, I threw my little partner, I took it to pay all my staff. But the thing that I'm struggling with now is finance, because in order to grow my team, and being in business now is worse than when I first started. It's no longer good enough to be good at what I do. I've got to be the social media manager. I've got to be the accountant. I've got to wash the plates when I need to. I've got to be front of house, meeting with the clients. How do I grow that team, and where do I get the funding from? I'm going to stop now because my question is really big.
I was going to say, who do you want to direct this to on the panel?
I think Shah, because she mentioned the venture capital
Yeah,
theses.
sure. So I do want to be really clear. The 2% of funding that goes to, or the less than almost 2% funding, that's VC funding. I actually don't know what the bank funding, bank loans is. It's obviously much higher than 2%, but it's A, still crap, and B, even more crap for black women than it is for white women. I am 100% sure of that. However, there are green shoots coming out. And unfortunately, because I operate in a tech space, I pretty much only know the tech space. But because I know it operates in the tech space, I think that it must operate elsewhere, and maybe they can help you. So I advise a company called Black Seed Ventures. Has anybody heard of them? Black Seed Ventures? Yep, awesome. Okay, so Black Seed Ventures is incredible. It is the first Black founded and co-founded startup VC fund in the UK. Founded and co-founded by two incredible entrepreneurs who are just amazing. If you look them up, Black Seed Ventures, and reach out to them, they're super supportive and helpful. They obviously don't operate in your area because they operate in the tech area, but I am sure that they would know of other funding. The other thing that I will say, and again, I don't support the tick boxes, but let's be honest here. Let's use what we've got to take what we need. So if somebody's got a Black fund, take it. If somebody's got a female fund, take it. Every single bank now has dedicated loans and funding for women and for Black businesses and brown businesses. So you have to make sure that you tap into everything. And as much as I said I hated having the label of being a woman, because I felt like that shouldn't define me, if that's going to get me capital, I'm all for it.
ImpactX is another seed funder. I don't know if she's listening. ImpactX, I think they're called, is another seed funder. And as Shah was saying, this is probably a good time for Black businesses because since let's just put it out there, since BLM, there's a lot of guilt going around. So it's really good to, you'll be surprised at the number of companies that may want to invest. So just tap on any door,
Take your retribution and your repatriations wherever you can find it.
You'll be surprised at the people that might say yes to you. So, really try and be creative with who you might approach, even if you don't think that they're the people.
Yeah. There's one more fund, which is Diversity X as well. They've just raised £1 million fund, which they're going to be putting out in the next couple of weeks. Not a huge fund, but they also back diverse founders, essentially.
Amazing. So Black Seed, Impact X, Diversity X.
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure you write those down. Do we have one more question? One more very short question. I don't know. I don't like having this much power. Okay, there's a, you were nearly standing up. I feel like you really want this. Let's go to you. Yes, ma'am.
Which one?
This one here.
Look what she got on.
She has on she's standing up. She has a fur coat.
I wanted to ask, thank you. I wanted to ask Priya, when you first started your business, did you have a lot of help to start it up, or were you mainly doing everything yourself, like social media yourself, designing yourself, sewing?
I was a one-man band at the beginning. And it's so funny because now I've got a bigger team. There's now 11 of us, maybe 12, and I don't know what's harder. I love my team, some of them are there, but it's like having 11 children sometimes. So at the beginning, I did everything myself, but it was so good because having to go through doing all of the social media, all of the patterns, all of the sewing, all of the selling, it means that now I'm so well-rounded and well-versed in all the different areas of my business, and I know exactly what I want from each of those areas. But I had a great network of friends. So as a designer, you have internal people, but then you also have external partners like a stylist or makeup artist you might know, or all these different people. And I made great friends at uni and when I was interning and stuff, and we all kind of leaned on each other, and we're really, it's actually really special. I've got a group of 6 friends and all 6 of us are all business owners within fashion. One owns a store, there's another brand, 2 very well successful stylists and stuff. And I think I just did it all, and then I got the help of interns. That really helped. And then I employed one person, it's Femi, she still works for me now, and I literally employed her to be my double. So literally just to help me get through the workload. And then I received lots of mentoring, and I give loads of mentoring, and some of the best advice I received about building a team was to hire people with skills that are not your forte, not your best set of skills, right? So, I enjoy like marketing and I enjoy like strategy and stuff, but I much prefer campaigns and like creative campaigns and things like that. That's where my skills lie. So you employ into that area. So then it was about building the bit, you know, the bit that your strengths aren't so strong in. And yeah, from then the team is built. So I'm still building all the time. Lots of pressure. It's good pressure though.
I'm going to quickly interrupt again, I'm sorry. Just to say, one of the things that I've really learned is that it's critical that you know all areas of your business. You don't have to be good at all of those bits, but you actually need to know it. And if you don't, your business will suffer for it. So even if it's really tough, that's one of the things that I would say, you know, I've learned the hard way. Take my advice, don't learn it the hard way.
Sorry, I just want to quickly say as well, I agree with that for so many reasons. Like, one is because then you know what your point of view is on a certain area. You're like, okay, well, I want to be a business that, I don't know, stores our data like this because of X, or we pay our suppliers in this way because of the cash flow is going to be better in that way. Like, all these different things that you can then have a decision on. But the other reason why it's good to know something about all areas of your business is it means that you don't get shafted.
Yes.
So, like, if, like, so I know how to pattern cut, I know how to sew a dress, so I know how, so I can design something and calculate how long it takes. Or if I'm talking about my creative direction side of my job or my film direction side of my job, I know I can tally up, like if I'm going to make a short, how much that production's going to cost. So if I give that to a production company, I know if they're marking it up, like I can tell straight away. So then you can negotiate and you've got to look after your money. And I think that knowing those areas, learning about it, asking questions at all different areas to make sure that, you know, no one's taking you for an idiot is important.
Love that. So that is last words. Should we start from this direction and go that way?
So I don't know how many of you, I guess, have got a business or thinking about starting a business. I hope lots, because I love ideas and bring them to the fore. I was just actually reflecting as we were talking, and there's something in tech which is, you know, if you don't fall in love with your MVP. So your MVP is your minimal viable product. So it's the first thing that you put out. So the idea is essentially if you're in love with it and you think it's perfect, you've launched too late. And it's such, I think for me, it was one of the best lessons in business, because essentially if you've got an idea, and I hope this is sort of a running theme, but like if you've got an idea, just mock up whatever kind of version it is. I mean, even if it's a sketch of a wedding dress, or if it's a, you know, kind of like, you know, an idea, and test it out with people. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to pour your life savings into something. You don't have to leave your job to do it. You can do it on the side. You can test it out, try it out. Just go for it. Just do it. Just don't be scared for the art of perfection. Like in my business, we always say, like, you know, perfect is the enemy of good, because you can be really fastidious about getting out a perfect product. And look, I mean, obviously, if it's like health and safety, and there are certain caveats to this. You know, if you're building a rocket, like make sure it's safe and it flies. You know, you don't want it to be made out of cardboard. But you know, in general, you can get away with it, and I think just do it. Just get it out there, and don't be scared that it's not perfect. That would be my kind of, my final thoughts, I guess.
Great advice.
Be generous. Just always think, what can I give? And even if you're on your knees, always think about who you can give. You'll be amazed how powerful it is to give and what you by default get in return. But, you know, generosity is what I'd say.
Okay, I've changed my answer. That's way better.
100%.
That's really nice as well. Now I have not thought, I feel a bit on the spot. I would just say, you know, be yourself, lean into your strengths, enjoy the journey, because, like, honestly, life is 360. And so even though I work so many hours and long hours, and I'm constantly, like, thinking of ideas, I wake up in the middle of the night thinking of ideas, and I'm writing things down, and all this different stuff, you know, it's a part of you, it's not the whole of you. So make sure, if you can, and not everyone's in a position to do so, but if you are in a position to start your own business, like, make sure you've got a real passion about it, get great people around you, and try and have fun. And also something I would say, and this comes because I'm like a creative, I would say also try and document as much of it as you can in like a photo video way, or like write a diary or something, because it's really lovely to look back at it and to realize like how far you've come. And you know what? Everyone should just give themselves some credit and be proud of where you are. Yeah, I see that more.
I'm going to leave you with a little bit of different advice, because I think we've talked a lot about business, and so I'm going to make an assumption that you're here because you either already run your own business or you want to start running your own business. And so we focus a lot on making money, which you should do because it's a business and not a charity. But we've already talked about money shouldn't be your primary, or at least it shouldn't be your sole objective. However, what I want to leave you with is this. If you run your own business, trust me, you will be working hard to make that money. And you'll get a lot of help and support if you look in the right places to teach you how to grow your business, how to make more money, all of that good stuff. But the one thing that very few people will talk to you about is how do you make that money that you've worked so hard for start to work hard for you. The lack of financial education in this country is disgraceful. The number of women who don't have pensions is a crime. The fact that so many women stay in abusive relationships because they can't afford to get out of them. And I just want you to know that if you're going to put all this time and effort into building a business and to making money, please dedicate as much time and effort into learning how to make that money work hard for you.
For amazing last words there.
So
incredible last words. I want to thank all the speakers today. I'm going to hand back over to Jacqueline now. So give the ladies another round of applause. And welcome Jacqueline back to the stage.
Okay, wow. I had a message while I was sitting there from the team at the back, and because they get a different viewpoint to what I have at the front. And they were just saying, what an amazing panel of women. I mean, come on now. I feel so intimidated by these powerhouses here. That's all I can say. Raising money, creativity, marketing, multiple businesses, starting up during pandemics, and just doing things without the knowledge sometimes and just getting on and doing it. I mean, this is inspirational. They are disrupting and they are influencing, and I hope that they've inspired you tonight. So thank you all once again. Thank you. So, and give yourselves a round of applause. You came here the day before International Women's Day in the rain. I heard it was snowing today. The little white things were out again. But, you know, it is Britain, so we take it as it is. It'll be sunny tomorrow, don't worry. I promise you that.
No, if it is, I'm going to black cab. It wasn't when I got here.
But I just want to remind you, feedback forms, they really help us. You know, this event is funded. We have other programs that we can get funded if we have the right data and feedback to prove that, you know, this is worth it. I mean, look behind you, look around you, look how many people are here today. So we're very, very happy they've all come out. So we can do more events like this. So please fill out the feedback forms. If you fill out the digital drop-in forms, the little slips, if you're interested in that, it's happening the last week of March. It's online. It's over 3 different days, so please do come sign up for that if you're interested. There's a box at the back. Noel, if you can just raise your hand. You can give it to Noel as well, or Jordan, don't know if he's here, or Katerina. The team, just raise your hand so people can see who you are. You can... Isabel at the front here and Alison, you can, and Luke, whoever else is here, please raise your hands. You can hand into them, or there's a little white box in the back. And now for the good stuff, the drinks and the canapes. So this is our time. We've got until just before 9 o'clock before we have to shut down, or you'll be staying in the library overnight, and I'll be on my train going back home, just so you know. So once more, thank you, beautiful women, amazing powerhouses. Thank you, audience, and
Oh my God, I need my...
enjoy the drinks and canapes. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.